Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Maverick Mind, and welcome to the very last episode of the show for 2025, which seems like so wild to say because this year has been so fast and so slow and so twisty turny at the same time. I'm sure everyone I speak to kind of feels the same. So thank you so much for sticking with me this year. Thank you so much for tuning in. This podcast has actually grown way more than I ever thought that it would this year, especially as I had a few months in the middle where I was kind of taking a break and reflecting and thinking about what message I really wanted to share on these airwaves. So thank you so much for being here and listening. It's such a pleasure to share this little community with you. And we're ending the year with such a fab episode. This week, I am joined by the very lovely Ren Morrow. She is a boudoir photographer who's really redefining what it means to be seen through the lens. Ren calls herself an outdoor adventure boudoir photographer, but what she creates goes so much deeper than that. She takes women out into wild spaces, forests, open land, even snow, and holds space for them to drop into their body, their expression, their power, and just to really be themselves in the wildness of nature. There's such a softness to it, a sense of playfulness about it, and a feeling of being witnessed, not judged. I mean, please do go and check out her photos. They're so beautiful. If she ever comes to Spain, I'm definitely doing a shoot. In this conversation, we talk about loads of things. We talk about how Ren found her way into photography almost by accident, and also how she found her style or her voice in the world of boudoir, and that actually kind of took her experiencing everything that she didn't want to find this voice and this kind of imagery that's so innately her. Her work is so much about the experience, maybe even more than the photo, and what it really means to feel like you're taking up space and feeling at home in your own skin. She talks about the messy and the real parts of building a creative business. You know, times where you lose momentum, times when you need to start again, navigating shame, navigating burnout, navigating real life around this business that you're trying to push forward, and how self-trust, how much self-trust even it will take to keep going when it doesn't look like you should, or you're going further than maybe even you thought you would. This is a really open and honest chat. You'll be able to tell by her energy, and Ren is such an open and honest and warm person. And we're talking, of course, about embodiment, creativity, identity, building a life that really feels good to create, both that being create the life that you want and create work that really is an outward expression of your values and your truth. So I really think you will love this one. Let's dive in, shall we? Ren Morrow, a huge welcome to Maverick Mind. Hey, Ren, a massive warm welcome to Maverick Mind. What a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to dive into you and your story, because I think you do something that's quite unique. But first, I think it'll be really nice for the audience to kind of get a little bit of an insight into who you are. How did you get or find yourself towards photography as like your medium of expressing your creativity?
Hmm. I think I always liked taking pictures. I had a friend of my mom's mentioned she was an incredible photographer, and I once asked her, like, how do you take such amazing photos? And she said, well, I just am always studying light. And with that, I think from a young age, I was like always looking at light. And it just really like changed the way how I saw everything. And then when I moved from Tennessee to the West Coast, I started dating a musician. And he told me one day, just kind of offhand, he was like, "You need a thing. You need a thing that you do," and bought me a camera for my birthday. And within 4 months, I started getting paid clients, which was a combination, I think, of just having a natural affinity for photography and the study of light from a young age, but then um, he was an incredible sense of like encouragement for me because being a good artist and being a good business person have are like two completely different worlds.
Yeah.
And when I like got my first client who was disappointed with the photos, I, fell in the pit. I said, "Oh my goodness, just kidding. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. It was a joke. I didn't actually want to be a photographer at all." And he was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Just catch another fish." And just had that gentle, like, any one project that you get is not the end all be all of your career or of your opportunities. And so just catch another fish. And that having him alongside me definitely like was what made it like be able to go as far as it has.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's such a like nice little note for everyone listening to kind of carry forward that idea of just catching other fish, because I think we can really often, especially if you do get a no from someone or a complaint from someone or somebody doesn't like your work, we can take it as if we don't like us as a human.
1 million
um
percent.
and um that idea of it just being like, just keep going
Hmm.
is
Yeah,
such a great thing for people to carry forwards.
1 million. Yes, 1 million percent. I was so grateful for that, and I have carried it forward in myself. I think I heard someone say recently that guilt is when what was it? Guilt is when you think something you did was bad, and shame is when you think that you are what's bad. And I think
Yeah,
that as like an entrepreneur, that like the twisting of like what's my work and what's me and how easily it can fall into shame rather than just like, oh, like, it's okay for me to like feel bad that you didn't like my work and offer a refund or offer an opportunity to like try again, whatever we need to do to make it right. Like that's okay. But the way that it will so like insidiously slip into like how you feel about me as a human is like, yeah, something to just
yeah,
always be aware of.
definitely. We had a hypnotherapist on the podcast recently who said that exact line. Um, and I think that a lot of us as creatives can, whether we realize it or not, slip into that shame cycle because we all have that kind of subconscious programming of like being an artist of some kind is not a real job. So it's like
Hmm.
if somebody then doesn't like your work and we take it as personal, it's also kind of an affirmation of, oh well, I should just go and get a real job. Like I don't really want to do that
Mm.
silly little camera thing. I want
Yeah.
to
It was a joke. It was a farce. I was just playing dress up. That's
yeah,
funny. I might have actually heard it on that podcast. That's funny. I forgot
maybe.
where I had heard it from.
If not, then we can quote Stepanka on that one. um but yeah, I think that yeah, shame is something that a lot of us struggle with. And it's kind of the root, often, not all the time, but it's the root of a lot of self-sabotage and a lot of kind of seasons of procrastination or stagnation, or even when you're trying to kind of squeeze yourself to fit into a mold of what you think the successful person is in your field. Successful photographer looks like this and they take these kind of photos, or successful painter looks like this and they do these kind of paintings. It
Hmm.
kind of comes from a little bit of shame of who you actually are isn't enough. But actually, as a creator, owning who you actually are is the thing that will lead towards your success, and kind of owning um that thing that you're a little bit too afraid to express, I think is often
Hmm.
the key to your success, and kind of carving out something that is like so recognizably you. And I think now you've totally done that. You've like created a style of imagery that is so recognizably yours. So kind of from getting that first camera, what was your journey like towards what you create now?
Hmm. I think in order to develop as an artist, it just takes a lot of intentional reflection on the work that you do. And so whenever I took a photo that I liked, it was actually like sitting with it and not just being like, oh, I really like this, but like, what do I like about it? Why do I like it? And kind of like teasing out these elements so that it became more and more replicatable. Starting to notice the style of light that, or like the quality of light that I wanted to work with. I think my work has often, I feel like it seems like a kind of dreamy portal, how I describe it. And that comes from working in lots of spaces that are actually very dark, but have like one element of light that becomes almost, yeah, like very, it looks very portally in image. And I think, yeah, just finding more and more ways to add like lots of texture and um, like between the lens and I don't know if you meant like the technicalities of it, but that's definitely like adding lots of texture between the lens and my subject is what creates this like really dreamy, like we can't exactly tell, like it's not very sharp images. And I think that that lends itself really well to the type of photography that I do because I don't really like to do a lot of editing. I'll take off like some like blemishes or like if like we maybe don't have to immortalize like that is it but if it's like like scarring or texture that actually exists on your face like at all times like I don't really want to take that away. So just like getting more creative with ways that it like softens it. Light is so dynamic, and so the difference between how you look at golden hour and how you look at noon, like the when the light comes from the top of your face and casts down, it like catches shadows and makes like you look like it's harsh light, and it exaggerates every blemish. Um, but it's still your face at a different time of day in a different lighting that is just a little more forgiving and romantic. And so that like looking for opportunities to use light rather than Photoshop to be flattering, I think has been important for me.
Yeah, definitely. And when you kind of first started out with that first camera, what kind of photography were you doing? Because obviously now you've gone more into the boudoir, and maybe we'll get to that in a minute. But what were you doing at that time, or was it boudoir right from the get-go?
It was boudoir almost immediately, but I had before I got a camera, I had always worked in restaurants, waiting tables. And I, so my partner had gotten me my first camera and had been really encouraging me to like own it, like own saying I'm a photographer. And um, he actually like brought me to a wedding expo with him because he was a musician. And that day, people kept walking up to me because I was wearing black and had a camera. And they're like, "Oh, are you a photographer?" And I'd be like, "Oh my God, no, 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 no." And because I just owned this camera. And I went up to him and I was like, "Everyone keeps thinking I'm a photographer." And he was like, "Because you are a photographer. Just tell them you're a photographer." I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay." So in this one day, the exposure therapy of it, I probably said I was a photographer 45 times, like
Uh,
in one day. And at the beginning, I'm like, I'm a photographer. for sure, take photos. And but by the end, I was saying it with such confidence and such ease. Yes, I'm a photographer. So later that week, I go to drop off a resume. I'm moving to Seattle, and I go to drop off a resume at a restaurant. And they weren't hiring at the time, but they just had like a really cool vibe. I decided to sit and hang out, have a drink. And he was like, "Oh, well, like what else do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm a photographer." Said it with all the confidence. He's like, "No way, I actually need a photographer. I need someone to take photos for Imbibe magazine, which is a very like well-known drink magazine in the bar world." And I was like, okay. He was like, "How much do you charge? Like $50 a photo?" I said, "Yes, yes, that is what I charge actually." And so I happened to have my camera with me because it was the only bag where my resume could lay completely flat. So I took photos right then of his cocktails, and they got submitted to Imbibe magazine, and they loved them. And he had me do that three more times where I just came in and took photos of like a specific drink, a specific moment. And then their Instagram, this is like 2018, their Instagram was abysmal. It was just like really bad cell phone photos. And every time I would come in, I'd kind of joke with him, "Brandon, you should let me fix your Instagram." He was like, "Yeah, yeah, I know. It's like, "Brandon, you should really let me fix your Instagram." And then one day I just sit down and I Google like, what is a social media manager? What is the like role? What do they do? What is like average pay? What are the expectations? And I write myself a job description of being a social media manager for them. And I like present it, I like email it to him. I'm like, "Right, you should let me fix your Instagram." But then it has like the full layout of like how much I would post, how much I would comment, what all I would do. And he was like, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing." And they hired me to do that. Um, and so then I ended up being in the restaurant all the time. I had to post twice a week. They didn't want like a whole lot of things. They're a really well established bar, and they just wanted something that existed online. So, um, yeah, so I was doing like bar photography for them. And then through that, literally everything else happened. I got hired for lots of different events. Um I met this one other guy who also happened to be a photographer, and I mentioned to him that I would like to do more boudoir stuff. And he told his girl, like friend girl, and she was the first person who like submitted a like an inquiry through my website, which was a very big deal for me. So yeah, that's the I yeah, so cocktails before that.
Yeah, wow, I love that. And I think that's really, again, something really important and empowering for people to keep in mind is that sometimes you just have to kind of say that you are something. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of us really do struggle with saying, even years later, saying that we're a painter or a sculptor or a fashion designer, which is my background. Um, or whatever else, because again there's like that identity piece of like the little voice in the back of your head of, but are you really?
Hmm.
Especially if you hadn't really had a paying client by that point, really. And
Or
yeah, I
even had a
think,
camera for that long. Like I hadn't had a
yeah,
camera for 4 months. Like I was like, "What do you mean?
exactly.
There's no way."
Yeah, but I think that's really important, again, just to kind of say that you are that thing, and then just then you have to become it, then you are it. And to have the courage to submit a thing to say, "I'll be your social media manager," even though they hadn't asked for one, because you could see what they were needed. Again, a lot of us would kind of sit back and think, "Oh no, but maybe that's inappropriate, maybe it's da, da, da." But sometimes
Hmm.
it really does just take a little bit of um, creativity in
Yeah.
what you're gonna
And,
do.
and I think also just like making it easy for someone to say yes. I think
Mm.
that's like one of the keys to sales in general is just like make an offer that's just like incredibly easy to say yes to. You see a person, you see their struggle, their like blind spot. I mean, the reason that they can't do it is because they're like overwhelmed. They mentally like shut down every time they think about doing it. So then you like create this path of like, oh, I'm your solution. And
Mm.
all you have to do is say yes and give me money. They're like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's an absolute no-brainer. Then people just have nowhere back from there. Um, but what kind of from the obviously the drinks and everything were kind of more circumstantial than something that maybe you were really inspired by. But what
Hmm.
kind of then gave you that pulling towards the boudoir route?
Yes. At the time, I was living in a van, and me and my partner were kind of going up and down the West Coast a lot. And I was spending a lot of time naked outside. And that was our thing. We would just like go and find these like very remote places where nobody would ever happen upon us. And he would play music and I would just frolic about. And I had come from an incredibly religious background when I lived in Tennessee, um, and had just so much shame wrapped around my body, around just like like I felt like I couldn't exist in my body ever, like with ease. Um, and so I was just getting to spend all this time and truly just felt myself like unravel in these places where there isn't like constant advertising of what you should look like and who's entitled to feel good in their body. That's just like the subconscious programming of like everything that we see in advertising is like, oh, like you're only like worth feeling good about yourself and how you look if you meet these criteria. And so I was just spending so much time outside and looked at like the wild ways things grow. I was just spending so much time, I was just like studying trees, honestly. And and you can see the story of how it was, of like its conditions, like by the way that it grew and the shapes that it made. It's like, oh my goodness, like it's like it fell over there and it kept growing and it's like warped in these things that aren't growing like perfectly straight, perfectly tall, like are telling this like incredible story. And just thinking of my own body in that sort of way, it's like, oh, like um, the amount of muscle I have, the amount of fat I have, the amount of like my posturing, like all of these things are actually just like the evidence of the story of how I've lived, of like what I've encountered, of how I've needed to hide, or how I've grown strong, or how I've sought comfort. Like, and it stopped being this thing that was judgeable and more just this thing that was like, oh, look at this story that my body is telling. Um, and I wanted to give that experience to people. I wanted to like, come with me. We'll go on a big adventure. It'll be so good. Um, so even even before that, yeah, when I decided that I was going to do boudoir photography and had this inclination to do it outside, and just wanted to, I was self-taught, so I just wanted somebody else to kind of show me the ropes. So I hired a boudoir photographer and had this really gnarly experience where she spent a lot of effort and energy trying to contort me into the very like publicly acknowledged ideals of sexy. And she commented on my body, commented on my flexibility or lack thereof, and just overall made me feel like shit. And when I got the photos back, while they objectively look hot, they just reminded me of this experience where I didn't feel good enough, I didn't feel worthy enough, I didn't feel like my body and the way I move and the way I present was like worth photographing, but instead needed to be like twisted into some other version of like a hot woman. Um, and that really anchored me into process oriented boudoir photography and taking a lot of recognition over the fact that these photos become keys that unlock the memory of the experience. And so I really wanted it to be helping women feel some kind of way, feel these ways that I had felt outside and unafraid and um and not ever like she became my blueprint of what I didn't want to be at all. So yes, that was
Yeah.
kind of rambly, but
No, definitely. I find that so interesting because, well, firstly, what she expect everybody to be like so flexible to do. So I'd love to know what kind of positions she was trying to put you into. But anyway, um,
just like tied my hands behind my head. I
okay.
was she's like,
Oh,
you need to
well, I just think like in my head, maybe this is like from the background that I've had, or in my head, the reason someone books a boudoir photographer, if they're not like wanting to make a career from that, it's to empower themselves and to feel comfortable in their own body. So then to kind of criticize someone and talk someone down in that way just seems so counterintuitive to my logic. But I guess sometimes we do have to see what we don't want to realize what we do.
yeah. I think that her approach was anyone can look like a magazine model if you have the right team kind of
Right.
situation. And I hadn't like researched her as much as I could have or should have, and honestly grateful that I didn't. But I think that that was like her approach was like, we have the team, we're gonna airbrush you, we're gonna make you look, however you need to look, and we'll make you look like you belong on a magazine cover. And that male gaze sexy approach just never has resonated well with me. I don't think that it comes through in my photos at all because I don't think that I think that's a very like small lens on what sexy is.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely limited. And I think that the way from the photos of yours that I've seen is that the women are very much themselves in their kind of nymphy fairy like way.
Yes.
Kind of woodland creature-ish way. But they're very much in their own skin, excuse the pun, if they're nude, but like they're very much being themselves and they just happen to be outside.
Yes. I feel like most women have a little inner woodland nymph that just didn't know that like doesn't have like the space
Mm.
to be set free. And we live in a city or we're in, like in these like tighter boxes. So it is just really like I feel like most women have that inside of them. And if you give them a big enough forest and
Oh
enough
yeah, for
time to
sure.
frolic, it'll
And
just
yeah, definitely. If you can guarantee that that forest has like no hikers were going through for a little while, then I'm pretty sure most women would just like absolutely love that experience. I'm sure.
we've definitely had some hikers come in through from time to time. It is like a disclosure. I do not have
Yeah, it's something
I
you
do
could
not
never
have complete
guarantee.
authority.
Yeah, you can't guarantee that, I guess. But I suppose that's, I don't know, it's part of the experience, I guess. It's just kind of setting
It
yourself
does make it a
free.
little risque, a little like
Yeah.
the cutest thing has been there's been several, maybe like three times that a little old lady has come through and they are beside themselves, so happy. Like, oh my goodness, I wish I had done that when I looked like you, honey. Like, just so like I wish I had like recordings of them just being like the biggest cheerleaders. So, like, I saw some clothes over there. I was wondering what we were gonna find if we kept.
Oh my God, I love that. I can so imagine, like, as an old woman, feeling that way, like
Absolutely.
definitely take all the pictures while you look like that.
Yeah, it
Even when
is
you
for
don't, like, anyway.
I mean, like, regardless of any specific like way you look, like the plumpness of your skin is going to go. Like the like your relationship, the way your body is like responding to gravity is going to change over time. We are getting older. We are, headed that way, and it is shifting. And I just think that every version of that is worth documenting and is so beautiful and is something worth celebrating because no matter how you look, what shape you are, how old you are, like the best part of having a body is this getting this like spaceship to interface with the physical world and like feel the warmth of sunshine and the coolness of a breeze and the softness of moss and like that is something that you are given access to through a body at no matter how your body looks, and that is the coolest thing to capture and to celebrate in my opinion. So
Definitely, I
all
totally
shapes.
love that, especially in an age where, you know, everyone's doing some really extreme things to like try and reverse that process of the body changing or your face changing and
Hmm.
things like that actually make people look kind of weird or worse in a way, sometimes, to kind of bring it all back into celebrating wherever you are in your life and anything that you do look, whatever your body does look like in at that time, but also in amongst nature where everything is celebrated over time.
Hmm. And I think like I said, like my work is so much more process oriented. So I always like have joked that the photos are kind of just like they're just like the memento of this like incredible adventure we're gonna go on. Like we're gonna go have fun. And you're gonna have like permission for that little woodland nymph to like come out and play and to have nothing to do that day but to snack and sing your favorite songs and like play in the water and like that's really what it is for. And then these photos just are kind of like the little memento of it. And so like yes, it's like celebrating your body however it is, but it's also just like giving yourself this like really intentional time to go and like do some of the coolest things in my opinion that you can do with a body. So
Yeah, definitely love that. It's like a little self-care day or like an unapologetic frolicking day.
yes. Yes.
Are there anything that you kind of do to guide someone to maybe feel more comfortable, especially if there's somebody that maybe is a little bit more reserved or they're really doing it to as their own process of breaking out or feeling more comfortable in their own skin? Is there anything that you do to help someone like really break through those barriers in the moment?
For sure. I think everybody is really different. Um, I think I'm pretty like uncannily good at reading people and kind of like seeing what they need. So I think that it's the biggest thing is just giving people time. Just like there's no rush here. And that was another thing about like my first boudoir shoot is that like we're in and out 90 minutes
Wow.
like get it together, and that I think just like acknowledging that comfortability like takes time and like you have to calibrate and that's okay, and lots of reassurance of there not being a rush and making people laugh, and that's like so personal, but just like having people laugh, having them dance and move a bit, doing grounding practices of kind of like, like lots of like wiggles out and then kind of like sinking in and kind of having that like fluctuation throughout the process for sure. Um, but really, yeah, really, I think that it's mostly just like the time and like trying to get them to shift away from feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm having my photo taken to like, oh my goodness, like, look how beautiful it is here. Look how beautiful I am here. Look how soft this moss is. Feel how warm the sun is. Like dipping into that aspect. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I mean, I've seen some of your photos. There was a girl out there in the snow. I was like, how is she looking so comfortable in snow?
I really ended up with a lot of people who reached out to me for photo shoots in the snow. Like for a while I was like, I don't know how I got like known as this, like where that happened. Um yes, the snow ones are wild to me. Because I get to be bundled and
Yeah,
I'm warm.
exactly.
Um but I'm often like we're like I like bring tea, like hot tea and hand warmers and whiskey for sure for the
Nice.
snow ones, I think. Um and uh the people who all of my work has been clients. I don't think anything that's up right now. Yeah, it's like all been clients. So it's somebody who came to me and they have a vision. They know what they want. So I'm not like requesting for a model to come and like have
Mm.
this time. It's like somebody was like, I know what I want. I love being in the snow. I love like that like rawness, like and it's like this like fluctuation between they're like in their lingerie, like so like and then like okay, like back in a big sleeping bag like caterpillar suit with like
Yeah.
a cup of tea, and it's like just trying to you only need a set, a split second to capture the thing.
Yeah.
And then but yeah, I think that I think I've done maybe like five or six in the snow. And there are two girls that stick out to me in particular that I was like, they came to slay. They knew what they were doing, knew what they wanted. I was just along for their ride mostly. So
Love
I
that.
think
It's so
that,
brave of
yeah.
them. But yeah, I was just thinking, like, I've done photo shoots for different things, and it's been like a teeny bit cold, and I've just been like unable to feel like myself because it's just been like that little edge of coldness. I was like, how are they doing that?
Yeah. I
um,
think there's like a softening. There's like, well, there's so many ways you can tap into, but there is like some of it is like a softening into things. And then some of it is like letting yourself like up on a thrill. And I think
mm,
that like the way that cold plunging is something it feels so
yeah,
exhilarating. You
true.
feel like alive. I think that it's like more tapping into that aspect of it. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
get that. That makes sense. Definitely. And in your journey of like building a business from what you're doing, how's that process been over the years?
Oh man. Well, it's been a little up, a little down, a little left, a little right. I think that before COVID, I definitely had like really good momentum and all of it felt like it was like building very organically. And then COVID happened and a lot of like interpersonal stuff happened that year as well. My the guy who had bought me the camera, he and I broke up. He uh left the van with me, and like 3 months after he left, the van got broken into and everything I owned got stolen.
Oh my God.
Um, and I feel like I've floundered for a while there after that. This was like spring of 2021. I think I really didn't know. There were times where I was like, the universe didn't even want me to be a photographer anymore. It took all my gear, it took all my hard drives, like, just like very pity party vibes. And then like since then, uh, I waxed and waned. I still was doing it sometimes, but it felt like my heart wasn't in it for a while. I think I was just tender. And so like with that, the business dropped down a bit. Um, and it's only been in the past year or so that I started remembering like how much I really loved it. Um, and starting to like pull the energy like back to me with it and like just talking about it more. Um, so I think that there's, I had so much momentum on a front, that had built over time over several years. And it's been a process of like having a lot of grace with myself in the past year of like, you don't get to just hop back in and have the same momentum that you had after like 3 years of building. You don't get to just like, and I think that that's been an interesting process of just like having grace and having trust. Um, and yeah, I think that the like self-belief is something that you just have to like really anchor into more than anything. And also I think not getting so like one-to-one focused on like, oh, I put energy into this one aspect of my business, so now I'm going to get energy back at that in that exact way. Noticing how, I don't know if you've seen this in your business where it's like I just put any energy towards it and it like comes back to me in different ways. And so
Yeah.
when you can't get like too hyper fixated on like, oh, I like, I've been like working on this like email thing and like no one's really like responding to it, because then you'll see the responses like coming at you in podcasts or whatever. Like,
Yeah, definitely. I definitely
um,
see that in my business for sure.
yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really important thing for people to remember because I think sometimes we think we're building a business from what we love the most or the thing that we're passionate about, or just like pursuing our passion in another way. If, like, say, if you're a musician or someone, you might not see it as a business as much. It is, but it doesn't look like one as much. But
Hmm.
to remember that even when you're like following your path and pursuing your purpose or your passion, there will be times where you're questioning everything. And
Hmm.
there will be times that it doesn't feel like as much of a passion sometimes. And I think that's kind of normal because then sometimes that leads you to find other layers of what you're doing.
Hmm.
I mean, would you say that's true for you?
Absolutely. I think, um, how would I say this? I think in our society, we got hyper fixated somewhere along the way on like monoculture. Like we think about like the way we grow our food, right? We like clear out like a whole landscape and just like plant only corn. Um, and it's incredibly damaging to the ecosystem and to the soil health, to to constantly be stripping or like requiring and pulling out of the earth the exact nutrients needed to grow corn, and like and you're essentially like mining the dirt for um for the nutrients needed to grow corn. um Whereas when you have things that they are like growing in harmony with each other, you have more things growing there. They start to need different things of the soil and also like drop in and like replenish the soil. Um, there's like a perfect union between like squash, beans, and corn or something like that. Or like, I don't know if you know of this, but um anyway, so like with that, when I think of my business, I think of myself as like, okay, well, there are so many aspects of this thing that like keep it alive, and I can't just like try to keep harvesting of myself, like oh, I need, like hyper fixating on any one aspect. It's like, okay, well, my own frolicking is like part of what like feeds this.
Mm.
Going and like playing with florals with my friend who's a florist, like that feeds this. And like trying to like cross pollinate and put put myself in like lots of different like aspects so I'm not constantly requiring the same thing in myself because that one is going to lead to burnout and two like it just isn't like very nutrient dense. Like you're not going to be able to get like the best version of yourself from that. So as many ways you can find where it like folds in like the things that both like my florist friend, like it's like, oh my goodness, like we, you're like able to like give me like all these like beautiful flowers I can work with, these like dried things. Like I come in, like I can take photos for you. I can like do these things, and it becomes like reciprocal. So as many like reciprocal relationships, both outside of your business, but then like even within your business, like seeing how I don't know, like how they all like can feed each other is really important.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's also really important to kind of, even if your business is one thing, to allow yourself time to do other stuff just for the sake of it. Like
Hmm.
it's not like necessarily going to be making you money. I mean, like going and playing with flowers or going for a walk or going to like
Hmm.
a pottery class, even though you never plan on being a ceramicist, just
Hmm.
to kind of access something else within yourself. I think is really important to people to listen to, especially if you're really like listening to this and you're super in the trenches with whatever you're trying to put out there. Like give yourself unapologetic permission to go and do something else.
Hmm. Totally. Yeah, my friend calls it, my other entrepreneur friend, she has like a really intense wedding season. And then she's like, when wedding season is over, it's time for me to go see my mistress. And her mistress is like something that exists entirely outside of her business. She's like, this is like what keeps the romance alive.
Well, I think that's kind of what you need. I think something like, even if you're like the most devoted relationship with a partner, you still have other friends, right?
Hmm.
And it's the same
Totally.
when you're like super devoted to your business or certain like practices that you might do in life. You still have other friends. And I think that's really
Hmm.
important.
Absolutely. It's the same like mono cropping type thing.
Mm.
It's like, okay, is this one person supposed to be my like the person I talk to about my life, the person I get advice from, the person who supports me, the person who like gives me constructive criticism, the person like I think we really it's very normalized to have your romantic partner be everything for you. And it's like, okay, that is just not, it's not sustainable. It doesn't look like it's not very balanced, you like think of yourself just like, okay, I want
Yeah.
more points of contact with the world. Like I
Yeah,
hang my friends.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the same light, I think like when you're somebody that's pursuing your passion in life, it's kind of perceived to be the source of all your joy, and it shouldn't be. I don't
Yeah.
think no. No.
No, it's you're setting yourself because everything waxes and wanes. Everything like goes through seasons of like sometimes it's incredibly fulfilling, it's incredibly easy, and sometimes it's like really, really hard.
Mm.
And if you like doing well in your business is how you're getting a lot of like self-assuredness, and it's a really hard season, you're not like booking a lot of stuff or it's not going well, it's like, okay, well, what happens to me during that? Like,
Yeah,
so got to
absolutely.
share the load. Share the load, friend.
Definitely. And like be able to can you for your joy, I think, to and for your like sense of groundedness and self-assurance can't come from that, I don't think often.
Hmm.
Like it can be fun for you, of course. I'd make it fun. Make it something that you love, but I think that you have to somehow have your sense of self totally separate from it, because I see a lot of creatives go down the road, and I totally did this myself with my last business, which is a fashion business, of
Mm,
making their what they create their whole identity, and then
right.
like either burning out from that, or the day you lose it, like I lost my business during COVID, then you're like, whoa, Who am I now?
Who am I now? Yeah. Who are you now? How are you feeling now?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely think that that's really, really important for people to remember. And I think that anytime you're trying to continuously bring your vision to life, that being birthed some art into the world in whatever way it's coming out, we kind of have to keep that attitude of playfulness as well.
Mm. Hmm. Yes. Yeah, I mean, becoming an entrepreneur is such like a unique opportunity to like play by your own rules and
Yeah.
like really we were talking about like being having like your own like self-expression and like the more you can like anchor into like what it is that's just you, the better it will be. It's like I don't know, like maybe thinking about like, okay, I don't actually want to work 9 to 5, even though that's like I work better from, 10 to 4, only 4 days a week. And that's better for me, and it's like, and then I'm using that other time to like I don't know, meditate or go like I've become obsessed with Pilates and I'm like, okay, like I want to go do that. And that's like feeding it and just like seeing myself like way more holistic and having more time for friends and more time for adventures and like that. Um, like I don't know, like you can so many like women I think would probably want things that reflect their own like internal cycles. Like you could have your business like match up with your period flow. You can have your business like go dark in winter in ways that masculine culture just forgot that just like a that the rest reset is like a part of the thing.
Yeah.
And like trusting in it looking different or still being successful um despite it not like following the modality that's like for spoon fed to us. And also I think really uh identifying like what your terms of success are, you know, like is success money? Because that's what we're spoon fed, but it just means money and growth and the growth of money. And
Hmm.
it's like, but can it look like, like what sort of like projects come into your hands that you're like, oh my goodness, like that I want full-bodied yes clients. Like that's success for me. I want somebody to come to me and say like, I want to hike to the top of a mountain at sunrise and in the snow and do a photo shoot. I was like, what? Yes, absolutely. I didn't know that that's what I needed, but that was exactly what I needed. And so like putting success on your own terms and like really like reflecting on yourself and like, okay, wait, how much of this is what I think of as success?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something a lot of people forget, that when you're creating your own life, you also get to create your own rules and to then live in alignment with those rules and really um, stand by whatever you want to create. So long as it
Hmm.
doesn't hurt anybody, like do whatever you want to do, but remember that you don't have to fit in the box, because we're here, especially if you are on a creative path, you're never here to fit in any box anyway. You're supposed to be creating in alignment with who you really are and how you really want to live, and
Hmm.
to have the conviction to kind of stay with that, I think, is what we're all here for.
Hmm. And seeing it in a playful light rather than an overwhelmed light, I think is the other thing. Like that's where we get the freeze is like there's a part of us that knows that like, oh my goodness, there are no rules. I'm in uncharted territory. Anything like that, like I could be anything.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
rather than like, okay, we can be anything. Like, what do we want to be? We can literally be anything. So like being inspired by that and thinking of it in a playful way and not getting too locked up in like, you can also change your mind in 3 days time. If if you decide like, oh, I thought that was gonna work for me, it is
Yeah.
not. Okay, like you made the rule, you can break the rule whenever you need to.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Love that. Well, I kind of want to kind of guide us toward the end, and I always end with the same two questions. The first one I think kind of leads on nicely in some ways, but it depends what you say. But this question is kind of just to allow everyone who is kind of pursuing their own path, which is everyone listening. And that is, what do you think is the most common misconception people have either about you or about what you do, or both?
I think the biggest misconception that people have with boudoir photography, I'll like put myself in a broader umbrella, um, would be uh, that like that you need to look a certain way or like be a certain way before you should take you like get that type of photo taken. There's so many people who are like, oh, I would love to do that. Like maybe when I lose 15 pounds. And I'm like, what if you gain 15 pounds? What if you just like
True.
never get to do it? What if, there's so many things so I think, yeah, the biggest misconception is that they should be their perfect self before they are allowed that sort of experience.
Definitely. I feel that I get that. And the second question is, if you think back to like a really memorable conversation that you had with somebody, what is like the one line that you remember the most? It could be about work, it could be about creativity, it could just be about life in general. Who were you with and what did they say?
Ooh. Um, I think, yeah, something on the I would say just like that go catch another fish. That's such an important one as far as creativity and entrepreneurship is like don't let yeah, like I said, don't let any one fish like totally determine how you think about yourself or feel like it's the end all be all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I love that. Cool. Well, Ren, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you. I'll
Yeah.
leave the links for everyone to find you and your work below, but just for anyone ready to find you right now, where's the best place that they can come and see you?
Yeah. On Instagram it's _ Ren Morrow, WRENMORROW. And yeah, also renmorrow.com.
Awesome. Well, everybody,
Yeah.
I'll leave the links to find Ren below. But otherwise, thank you again always for listening. If you've loved this conversation, we would love to know. Let us know. You can leave a comment under the video, or you can tag us on socials, or just share it with a friend that you think needs to hear that they need to go and catch another fish.
Yes.
Thank you again for listening, everybody. I'll see you again next week. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Maverick Mind. I hope that you've loved it, and if you have, I would appreciate it so much if you would subscribe and write a 5-star review on wherever you're listening to this podcast from. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, I invite you to join me over on Instagram at maverickmindco or on my website maverickmind.elliefoden.com. And I'll see you in another podcast very, very soon.